Did you know that Rocky V made only $40 million at the box office compared to Rocky IV's massive $300 million haul? That's a staggering 87% drop for a franchise that was once Hollywood's ultimate underdog success story. How did a series that began with a Best Picture Oscar win and created cinema's most beloved boxing icon fall so far? From Sylvester Stallone himself giving Rocky V a 0 rating to the franchise losing its way with increasingly cartoonish villains, this is the story of how Rocky went from authentic character study to bombastic spectacle and back again. The Rocky saga started as a gritty, low-budget film about a struggling boxer seeking self-respect, and by its fifth installment, it had devolved into a story about brain damage, street fights, and a talking robot. While the franchise would eventually redeem itself with later entries like Rocky Balboa and Creed, the road there was filled with questionable decisions that nearly killed this beloved series. But before we dive into the 6 crucial mistakes that derailed the Rocky franchise, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell to catch all our deep dives into cinema's most fascinating franchises. It's one small click for you, a huge deal for us. Now, let's explore what really went wrong with the Rocky series. Reason number 1. Losing the heart of Rocky. Let's start with the franchise's biggest misstep: abandoning what made the original Rocky special. The 1976 film wasn't really about boxing at all. It was a character study about a down-on-his-luck fighter seeking self-respect and love. The climactic fight with Apollo Creed wasn't even about winning, it was about going the distance and proving his worth, which is exactly why he didn't have to win the fight for the ending to be satisfying. Yet with each sequel, the franchise moved further away from this emotional core. By Rocky III, our humble street fighter had become a wealthy champion, doing credit card commercials and posing for magazine covers. The relatability that made audiences fall in love with the character was replaced by montages and spectacle. While Mr. T's Clubber Lang made for a memorable villain, the series was now more focused on creating larger-than-life antagonists than exploring Rocky's inner struggles. This shift became even more pronounced in Rocky IV, where the intimate story of a Philadelphia boxer transformed into Cold War propaganda. Gone were the quiet character moments that gave the original its soul, replaced by training montages, robot butlers, and Rocky single-handedly ending the Cold War by defeating Russian roid beast Ivan Drago. Most tellingly, the series gradually lost sight of Rocky's essential character trait, his humility. In the original film, Rocky was endearing because he was genuine, unpretentious, and knew his limitations. He wasn't trying to be the greatest, he just wanted to prove he wasn't just another bum from the neighborhood. But by the time we reached the sequels, that humble street fighter was replaced by a walking American success story who seemed invincible. Reason number 2. The Escalation Problem. Each Rocky sequel felt compelled to be bigger and more dramatic than the last, creating an unsustainable pattern. Rocky II had to end with our hero actually winning the championship, that's fine. Therefore, Rocky III needed a more intimidating villain in Clubber Lang. Rocky IV had to literally pit America against Russia. This bigger is better mentality backed the franchise into a corner. After having Rocky defeat a superhuman Soviet boxer, where else could the series go? The answer was Rocky V, which attempted to bring things back to basics, but felt like a dramatic step down after the heightened reality of previous entries. This escalation didn't just affect the fight sequences. The franchise's signature training montages became increasingly absurd. From running up the Philadelphia Museum steps to punching sides of beef to running in the Siberian snow or chasing chickens. By focusing on topping previous spectacles, the series lost sight of the human element that made these moments meaningful in the first place. If this trend had continued, we probably would have seen Rocky training upside down underwater with cannonballs strapped to his ankles and a time bomb in the corner in order to defeat Johnny Rocket Fingers, the president of Mars, or something. Reason number 3. The money problem. One of the most baffling aspects of the Rocky franchise is its inconsistent handling of Rocky's finances. In the original film, his struggle with poverty was a key part of his character. By Rocky III, he's living in a mansion with multiple cars. Then suddenly in Rocky V, we're supposed to believe that Paulie signed over power of attorney to an accountant who lost everything, including years of unpaid taxes. Unless his accountant was Bernie Madoff, this one feels like a bit of a stretch. The financial rollercoaster wasn't just unrealistic, it undermined the series' credibility. The original Rocky resonated because it felt authentic to the working-class experience. When the franchise needed to create drama in Rocky V, it resorted to a contrived plot device that made our hero look financially irresponsible rather than unlucky. Even more problematic was how these financial shifts affected Rocky's character. The hungry fighter who took on collections work to make ends meet became a millionaire who somehow never learned basic money management. It's hard to root for an underdog who lost everything through sheer negligence rather than circumstance. Reason number 4. The Apollo Creed Problem. Apollo Creed's character arc is perhaps the most mishandled element for the franchise. He begins as a charismatic champion who gives Rocky his shot at greatness. By Rocky III, he's inexplicably training his former rival. Then, in Rocky IV, he's abruptly killed off in an exhibition match he had no logical reason to participate in. The transformation of Apollo from a confident champion to Rocky's best friend never really felt earned. While Carl Weathers brought incredible charisma to the role, the writing failed to justify why this proud champion would suddenly dedicate himself to training the man who took his title. Even more puzzling was the decision to have Apollo fight Drago despite being years out of the ring, a choice that existed solely to motivate Rocky's revenge story, which would have been fine if it wasn't such transparently bad writing. Apollo's death was particularly egregious because it reduced a complex character to a plot device. The man who was once Rocky's greatest rival deserved better than being sacrificed to set up a Cold War boxing match. This treatment of Apollo exemplified how the franchise increasingly prioritized spectacle over character development. Reason number 5. The familial neglect. Perhaps the most troubling aspect of the franchise is how Rocky consistently puts boxing ahead of his family. In the original film, his relationship with Adrian was the emotional heart of the story. But as the story progressed, Adrian was increasingly sidelined, reduced to alternating between a supportive wife and a concerned voice of reason. This neglect became even more apparent in his relationship with his son. In Rocky V, when Robert needs his father most, Rocky's too preoccupied with training Tommy Gunn. The film attempts to address this through their eventual reconciliation, but it can't erase the pattern of Rocky choosing boxing over family throughout the series. If the story wanted to address Rocky's character flaws, it could have done that. But instead, we're supposed to cheer for the guy who mishandles his relationships as badly as his bank account. Even more concerning is how the franchise handles Adrian's eventual death between Rocky V and Rocky Balboa. The woman who was once the beating heart of the series is reduced to a memory. Her passing is used primarily to motivate Rocky for one last fight, a concerning pattern after Apollo's death and another cheap plot contrivance. The treatment of the Balboa family dynamics shows how far the series had strayed from its original core values. Reason number 6. The health crisis contradiction. The franchise's handling of Rocky's health issues is wildly inconsistent. In Rocky V, he's diagnosed with brain damage that forces him to retire. Yet in Rocky Balboa, he's somehow medically cleared to fight a champion boxer in his early 60s? This isn't just about plot holes, it's about the message that it sends. The series wants us to believe that Rocky is both permanently injured from his fighting career and somehow still capable of shaking it off and going toe-to-toe with professional boxers decades younger than him. This contradiction undermines both the serious health consequences of boxing and the credibility of the story itself. The brain damage storyline in Rocky V could have been a powerful commentary on the cost of Rocky's career choices. Instead, it's treated as a temporary obstacle that's conveniently forgotten when the plot demands another fight. That level of inconsistency reflects a larger problem with the franchise's unwillingness to fully commit to its more serious themes when confronted with the opportunity to further milk a dying series. Reason number 7. The training montage fatigue. While the training montage is a Rocky trademark, hell, it's what we think about when someone says montage, the franchise's over-reliance on these sequences became increasingly problematic. The original film's montage worked because it showed Rocky's genuine struggle to improve whilst showing the audience improvement with the passage of time. By the later films, these sequences had become parodies of themselves. From drinking raw eggs to chasing chickens to lifting logs in Siberia, each film tried to outdo its predecessor with increasingly outlandish training methods. While visually impressive, these montages lost the emotional resonance that made their originals so powerful. They became more about creating memorable moments than showing character growth. Basically, the films forgot what montages are supposed to do. This escalation reached its peak in Rocky IV, where the contrast between Rocky's primitive training and Drago's high-tech methods became almost comical. The franchise had transformed what was once a powerful storytelling tool into mere spectacle, with Russian scientists gleefully annotating which multicolored science juice would make their super soldier's hair stand up 10% straighter. So what could have saved the franchise? Despite these missteps, the Rocky franchise eventually returned with Rocky Balboa and the Creed series. So what lessons can we learn from both its failures and its redemption? First, stay true to your core themes. The best Rocky films are about personal growth and self-respect, not just winning fights. When the franchise returned to these foundations in Rocky Balboa and later Creed, it rediscovered its heart, with the Creed films in particular gaining massive praise from audiences and critics. Second, keep the stakes personal rather than grandiose. The original Rocky wasn't about saving the world or defeating communism, it was about one man proving his worth. The Creed films understood this, focusing on personal legacy and identity rather than world-changing events. Third, respect your characters' journeys. The later films showed that you can evolve characters without betraying their essential nature. Rocky becoming a mentor in Creed feels like a natural progression, unlike the erratic character changes in earlier sequels. And this time, when Rocky gets sick, it actually means something to the story and moves the plot forward. And maybe tone down the training montages? It's supposed to show someone improving over time through effort, not some wax-on, wax-off chicken chasing that unlocks the 18th chakra. But that's our opinion. What do you think? Which Rocky sequel went too far? And what's your favorite moment from the franchise? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into cinema's most fascinating franchises. This video was made by movie fans, for movie fans.